Reactive Training Systems.
The next meet's not until May 11th, I believe, or 12th. So, basically the way I look at it is I think it's like 13 weeks away. I've got about 5 weeks to heal is the way I look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, you're a bigger guy, too. And in my experience, bigger guys tend to bounce back from time off a lot faster than smaller people. I don't know why that would be, but it just seems to be the way it goes, and can handle longer periods of reduced training or non-training without as much negative effect as smaller lifters. And I don't know why that would be, but it works out in your favor in this case.
My brother's like that. If he takes off very long and all, it really, his strength just really goes down really fast.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I seem to be like that too.
Yeah. Well, and you're closer, and it may be something to do with like you being closer to your body weight when you graduated high school. I was really surprised when I found out you were 255 in high school, and you're about 20 to 30 pounds over that. I'm damn near 100 pounds over what I was in high school, which is weird.
Really? So you?
Well, I say so. I get up to about 285, and I graduated high school. I weighed about 195.
Wow.
I was a big high school kid, but I was like an athletic skills type position, and so I'm a lot bigger than what I was. That's a good sized high school kid, but not anything like I am now. Now I'm like, damn near NFL lineman weight. Not height, but definitely weight.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if that has any correlation or not, but.
Well, while we're on the topic, what is some of your athletic background? You said you were kind of a heavy skill guy, so I guess you played football in high school. What else did you do?
Yeah. So I played. That was it, man. I didn't do anything else. I just played football and lifted weights in the off season because I was too scared to wrestle because I was my reasoning back then was I wanted to go play college football. So I thought if I wrestled, it was going to take off too much weight, and I had a hard time in high school trying to put it on. So when I graduated, my goal was by my senior year I wanted to weigh 220. Well, I never got there. Just by so I was lifting weights and trying to put on all this weight to be 220. So if I wrestled or did anything else, it was going to hinder that. So I never did any of that. I just went through high school playing football and lifting weights.
Gotcha. And then after high school, what happened then?
Well, after is when I started kind of doing other things. The football didn't pan out, so I spent a little time running 5Ks competitively, 10Ks, and did that for a couple of years. And then I did some grappling for a couple of years after that. Actually, after I stopped running all the time, I was just kind of a gym lifter for a number of years. And then I decided I wanted to do some grappling. So I did that for a couple of years. And then after that, I started powerlifting. I started powerlifting while I was still doing grappling, and then I started powerlifting full time after that. So,
gotcha.
Well,
it's full time as any of us actually do it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you ran 5Ks competitively. Well,
yeah.
Do you remember what your best time was offhand?
Yeah, it was 2023.
Holy crap! That's fast, man. That's no joke.
It's fast for a big dude.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the frame of reference that I'm coming at. Like I didn't do enough of them to say I ran 5Ks competitively, but I did a couple in my younger years. I never quite broke 21 though. That was a goal of mine, was to get down to 21.
Yeah, okay.
So
yeah, 2023 was the fastest time ever.
See, that's the lens I'm looking at it through. Is like, man, that would have been really fast for me. So, man,
well, I weighed. When I did that, I weighed about 215. I was considered in the Clydesdale division.
Sure. I always got a kick out of that they call it the Clydesdale division.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, if you weighed 185, I think you're a Clydesdale.
Well, of course, I guess for somebody over 200 pounds, it looks like that when you're running, you're just stomping around.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of those guys, anyway. That's cool, though. So that and then grappling and then into powerlifting. Do you have any aspirations of getting back into grappling at some point, or?
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, I've kind of thought about maybe doing it, starting it up maybe next year, but I don't know yet. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I think about it all the time. I think about getting back and doing it, just mainly because I just kind of want to get in shape again. I'm tired of being. I'm just overweight, and I don't feel healthy on. But I don't know. I kind of thought about maybe starting to do it next year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, if I do, it'll be real gradual, and basically it's just going to be for health.
Yeah.
Health reasons. I'll do some grappling tournaments and stuff, but I mean.
What about equipped powerlifting? You think we'll ever see you put on a squat suit and bench shirt?
Dude, I'd kind of like to, but the problem is there's just no real avenue to do it outside of the IPF. There's no incentive to do it outside of going to doing IPF Worlds. I thought about going in and doing it at super heavy, but I don't know. I think just finding the incentive at this point. If it got to where there's big money meets in it, I'd probably learn how to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the next step in powerlifting is to learn the gear.
Okay.
People bash on it all the time, but I really think it is harder. It's harder to learn. It's harder to do, and it is kind of intriguing to me. Especially after I watched IPF World, I really want to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I want to.
Well, you're a competitive guy, though. Like, I know that drives a lot of your motivation. So that kind of makes sense. You watch IPF Worlds, and those guys are all. I mean, they're strong and they're good with the equipment. And I'm sure for somebody like you, that makes you want to throw your hat in the ring a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of does. I was just watching Tony Cliff. I've been watching him do workout in gear. Watching you work out in gear here recently, it looks like. I've seen you put the shirt on, but
it's fun. It's definitely a different experience. Like I don't know.
It's another challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely another challenge, and I mean, I go back and forth on it. It's something that's fun to do now and then, but I'm glad that raw competitions have gotten popular the way that they have, because I think, like for me, I know kind of back in the day when it was just single ply and that was it, what I felt then was like my whole reason for getting into powerlifting to begin with was to be, kind of big and strong, and it felt like raw powerlifting was truer to that original motivation,
Yeah. And I think the long term, the older you get, the more I think raw powerlifting is more beneficial for people in general. Gear is more of a sport. It's more for the sport side only,
Yeah. It is entertaining though. Like I'll say that like having training sessions with gear are not boring training sessions. You know, it's not like you go in there and you're like, man, I got to slog through this again. You know, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's also a much lower rate of work. You know, like I remember I had this has been a little while ago now, but I was doing a session where I would have like equipped squatting and benching in the same session. And the workout would be like 2.5 hours long, and I would get through 8 working sets, you know. So it's just a lot of, you know, setting things up and just kind of resting. And, you know, it's more like, I guess, classic lazy powerlifter, you know. But, yeah, it's a different beast. It's something that I think is worth trying, you know. I know a lot of people would like to see you. It'd be interesting to see what you could bench with a shirt or squat with a suit. You know, that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, well, and and see, a lot of people hate on it. They hate on knee wraps too, just like on the classic raw power. Or some federations call it classic raw. And just the knee wraps alone, to me, it adds another level of difficulty to it. So like. You know, like the U.S. Open, they do knee wraps. To me, I'd rather it be that way because it adds another level of difficulty without really losing the raw aspect of it. You know. I mean, to me, that's what's kind of intriguing. A lot of people want to see like the U.S. Open to be raw only and get rid of all the gear, but I like the fact that my only problem is I wish. You know, I kind of wish powerlifting would go back to the days of Cohen, like where basically the gear was it was more minimal. It'd take a little less time to learn, but that was the only division you did, and everybody did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of wish it would go back to that. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the squat suits that they wore back in the 90s or not.
Yeah.
But they're not. Yeah, I mean, I wore one, and it's really easy to learn. I mean, it doesn't take much time, and to me, that's all the gear you really need. I kind of think, you know, I don't know, man. I kind of go back and forth on that kind of stuff. You know, it's
right.
Depending on what mood I'm in, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I don't think that's unusual for somebody like you. You know that. I mean, from where I sit, I like that there's the raw divisions. You know, the equipped divisions are definitely interesting. It's there isn't anything in between. You know, well, not much in between. But you know, if you start drawing a lot of lines in between, then it, you know, kind of increases the whole watering down factor that we've got to deal with anyway. Yeah. Yeah,
and the gear division is very watered down. I mean, the best talent is definitely is in the raw, you know, raw or classic raw. I mean, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
The gear, the single ply division is watered down, obviously. I mean, you know, top super heavyweights, for example, you know, if all the top guys were getting gear, you know, Blaine would have a lot more competition, you know. So
yeah, for a guy like Blaine too, he thrives on that. I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean it you know, and I think the two top raw guys in America, 2 or 3, you know, if Ray and Kelly and Jezza were to step into gear, for instance, it could be either one of those 3 guys or 5 guys, you know. I mean, it
would shake things up for sure. It's a different animal. You know, I mean, I've talked to Blaine a little bit about what it's like to handle 1,000 pounds on the bench press, and I mean, it takes a semi-crazy guy to want to do that, I think, you know.
Dude, that's the other thing. Yeah, I you know, I just hold, you know, doing the slingshot work, holding 605 hurts.
Yeah.
You know? I can't imagine 905, you know.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's insane. Blaine
Go ahead.
Blaine has a really big advantage in the gear because he's mastered the bench press, and that's he's just so good at the gear,
Yeah. Well, that's for the bench, yeah, it would definitely. Well, I guess for all of it, like that's the sport. So you can't take much away from him. You can't take anything away from him for maximizing that. But no. And then too, like you take somebody like Blaine who really proved himself in powerlifting, and then has invested the time, energy, and everything to not only get used to and adapt to the gear, but really to maximize it and to get used to handling the weights and just everything, Like I remember back when I was competing with equipment and squatting. Now I wasn't squatting as much as Blaine was, that's for sure. About 900 pounds, 903 was the best that I did in competition, I believe. I can tell you, man, walking that out felt like the hardest part to me, just to stabilize the weight and everything. Now, you take somebody like Blaine who's squatting, 200 pounds more than that, But even that, like Ray has to walk out his squats too, So that in itself is impressive to watch those guys work and just to handle that kind of weight is and stabilize it is really impressive,
Yeah.
And
they've really mastered it. Blaine, to me, Blaine is the most well-rounded powerlifter on the planet. As far as anybody I can think of. Monique is another one that comes to mind that's very well-rounded as far as raw and
dominant too, man. That's crazy.
Dominant, yeah. But there's nobody, people want to brag on that guy from CYC or whatever his name is, the guy from
Christensen, yeah.
Yes. He's good and everything, but he's not as good as Blaine, dude. He can't squat like Blaine. He can't bench what Blaine can bench. He can't do it raw like Blaine, It's like, it kind of frustrates me when I see that. People are like all over CYC when Blaine clearly beat him and could any day of the week. He's stronger than that guy is, and he's mastered all of it, He's gone through the bullshit and he's gone through it to be the best,
Yeah.
I don't know how people can't argue that. You know what I mean? I think CYC is great. I think he's great. He's got a beautiful squat and everything. I ain't going to lie, but, he's just not Blaine. I don't know how I got off on that little sidebar. But
no, man. Well, you said, before I move on to the next thing, we're talking about squatting and handling these weights, and I kind of used my 903 and equipment as a frame of reference. Now, at your last meet, you squatted 909. Now that was raw. That was knee sleeves and a belt. So thanks for that, by the way. You've out-squatted me now. You've out-squatted my equipped squat, and you did it raw. So.
Yeah, but it's not at 2. Did you do that at 275 or 264? No, you did at 275. Didn't you?
Yeah, 275. Yeah, but
yeah,
no, that
yeah, but the thing of it is, man, it's just just the people just.
Well, that was the Fit Expo, right? That was the Fit Expo, and you had an awesome day. You had an awesome day.
It was good except for the deadlift, I think.
Yeah, so squatted 909, that's 412 and a half. Bench 589, it's 267 and a half, and deadlifted 749, that's 340.
Yeah.
So the deadlift didn't go according to plan?
No, and really the squats didn't either. What happened there was so when I did the Fit Expo, I went in to cut to 275, but just the lack of resources there, the sauna was like clear across well, it was several blocks away from the venue. So you had to find a place to park. You got to get in the sauna. I was already way overweight. And I tried to cut down the scale. The scale there wasn't right. It wasn't accurate. I mean, I can make all excuses I want, but basically I didn't make weight. So I stopped cutting because I got to a point. I sat in there for an hour, and that sauna was very hot, and I got to a point where I was starting to feel sick. Get that sick feeling that I had, the same kind of feeling I had right before Raw Nationals, where I sat in a hot bathtub for 140 minutes.
Yeah.
So, when I got to that point, I was like, okay, I'm done cutting, because now I'm going to start getting to the point of diminishing returns. Not going to matter anyway. So I decided, well, Rob Phillips is going at 308. I'm going to see if I can go out squat him on the same stage, you know.
Yeah.
So I just went ahead and did that. Went up there. I actually weighed in at like 278.
Yeah.
But by the time I did it, I was dehydrated. I was already, my body had kind of started to reach minutes into the point of no return. So, which means I can't hydrate fast, get back to my hydration fast enough, even though it was the day before. So I spent, after I weighed in, I drank tons of fluids, and I just couldn't get rehydrated. And I didn't get rehydrated until the bench. So when I was squatting, my squat was actually down from what it should have been. You know, I had made plans to actually squat 920 or 921, whatever it was. Knew that wasn't there after my opener, or definitely after my second attempt. I knew it wasn't there. So what I did was I went to 909 to match what Rob had attempted to do on his second attempt, and that's when I did it on my third, barely. And you could tell in the video, you watch it, it was rough, dude.
It was definitely on the lift, for sure.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't have a thing more, but and it was funny when I did it here in Oklahoma. I only had to cut for about a little less than 45 minutes, so I wasn't near as drained, and I did it at lower body weight, and I was completely hydrated by the time I did it. So,
well, you had done 903, right? A week or 2 weeks prior to this. Yeah.
Well, it was about 4 weeks.
Was it that much? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was right at 4.5 weeks, actually.
But still, to go from, from 903, and I mean, you did make that 903 and you had some room left, and then you were planning on going to 920, we'll call it a month later. I mean, that's impressive by itself. I know for most of us who were watching, for you to go 903 to 909 in a month is impressive, because I mean you're so far ahead of where your peer group is at,
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's it's fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, and I'd made plans to go after the 275 record, and I'm still going to do that. I've got to pick the right meet to do it at,
Yeah.
But that was the goal behind it. I was wanting to break that 275 record, and that was the primary goal. The secondary goal was to go in and squat against Rob Phillips, which was what I did. But I mean, and it went okay. Where I was surprised though, what I was going to say was my hydration finally came back by the bench press. I felt full. I can tell when I'm dehydrated, and I can tell when I'm full. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that any better than that, but
yeah.
A guy had given me some salt pills that were basically sodium and potassium.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helped. And when I did that, man, the you know, I felt like myself again, and the bench felt great. You know, I got to the bench and I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely it's definitely on today. So when I did 578, I was real happy with that. And people were talking me into going 589 for fourth because the USPA you can go for fourth for world records. So I was like, well, I guess I don't have anything to lose. So I got 3 minutes, and they basically give you 3 minutes to rest for your previous attempt. And so I did it and got it up, you know, hit the just hit it on lockout. It was another limit lift, but man, it was a huge PR from anything I've done before.
Yeah, so, I mean, geez, 589. That's
huge PR. And it's all that bench volume, you know. It's benching 3 times a week really does it. 4 times I start to I have to watch it. If I do it, you know, doing the 4 times, I have to watch that last time of the week to do it.
Yeah.
Because I got to where I was kind of, and maybe my body will adapt to it. But leading up to that, I thought my bench was going to be down because I felt like I was going to injure myself. But I had given myself enough rest. I didn't work out after, I think it was like Tuesday or maybe Thursday. And I didn't bench anymore after that, after Tuesday or something like that. I have to go back. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But man, it was on.
But that was enough recovery for you to feel good then.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, my warm-up felt great. I was like, okay, and then maybe I'll, you know, be able to hit what I would plan to hit, which was 578, and it was easy. So that gave me a lot of confidence, man. The bench is definitely improving. So,
yeah, that's a hell of a bench.
Yeah, dude, I mean, dude, I've been stuck at 551 for a number of years, you know. My squad had.
And you were saying before you got the flu this last week, you were hoping to take a run at like something in the neighborhood of 600.
Yeah, 595 to 605. I was going to do something between those two numbers.
Man.
So I won't now. I mean, I've got to.
but
we're back at 0.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, last week the 580 was about a 9. So.
I mean, yeah, that suggests that it's there. I mean, if you do 580 and it looks like a second attempt, then, I mean, that suggests that, you know, it's getting close, if nothing else, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another week and it would have been there. I mean, you know, the pushing exercises are definitely they're definitely coming along. It's the deadlift that's still the question mark, and deadlifting about all these times a week. I think that I've never done that before. So when I did 683 or 685 for a set of 3, fatigued after doing it all those times during the week, you know, doing the trap bar deadlift and all that other stuff, man, I was surprised. I was like, man, this might be the answer. You know, if I were to not do some of that other stuff 1 week of not doing it, being fully fired up, ready for a meet, it might be a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Similar to the bench, you know.
Right, yeah, a nice taper can go a long way.
I'd have never thought the trap bar deadlift or snatch pull or snatch pull deads or anything like that. I like it. It's a new challenge, so it's definitely something to go after.
Yeah. I mean, I think that stuff is it's useful to explore, if nothing else. You know, it gets you out of doing the same old stuff. Like you're saying, it's a new challenge to adapt to, and yeah, man, that's it.
And
it's different
that's what
for
I
everybody.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. So like some people don't need that much variety. Some people, need more time with the competition lifts. But, I think if you take the time to look for some assistance work that transfers well for you, then I think it's worth doing, I mean, obviously, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, and when I talked to, before I got with you, I talked to Kelly about everything, and he had mentioned that. I was like, man, I need that. That's what I need. I need a new challenge in my training, because I'd gotten stagnant with my own, you get kind of complacent. You're like at a point where I don't really want to change this, but I know it needs to,
Yeah.
Having somebody step in to tell you, okay, let's do this and this. And
yeah, this is what needs to change.
It's worked out for sure, man.
Yeah.
The downside of it all is all the added volume is I put on more weight than I want, but
I see.
As far as body weight. But, I mean, it is what it is. It's just you're building muscle and,
So what would you say is the biggest change to your training since you and I started working together?
Oh, man, a lot. The biggest change that I like is working up to these singles and then back down.
Okay.
I was a little skeptical of that first. And then when I started doing it, you get a real good judge of where you are strength-wise.
Yeah.
Each week. And I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I got to where I really like it. Like on the squat, I've really got that mastered, man. I mean, I can work up to a little over an opener on a single and hit what I predict to hit in a meet. And I'm still trying to figure that out on the bench, and I think I'm getting there on the bench finally. And then the dead, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely takes a little while to get nailed down. But.
Yeah. But I really like those singles, man. Working up to those. And then, so that's probably the biggest change that's really benefited me the most, I think. I don't know if you have everybody doing that. I know you do that on your training, or you used to.
Yeah.
A lot.
It is a technique that I like to throw in there quite a bit. I think there's a lot of value in it, and now some people just don't respond to it at all. Like I've had some people who, they would like to train like that, but every time we start doing that, they get beat up and aren't feeling very good, and their strength's not going anywhere. So we have to find some other way, So it's useful, and I think there's a lot to be said for it as a technique. But at the same time, the lifter's body is in charge, so we've got to stick to that.
Well, and I was skeptical of it at first, but and I remember you were doing, and I was thinking, he does a lot of heavy singles, and I thought maybe you were maxing out all the time. I was like, man, that's just, I don't know. but when I started doing it, I was like, okay, this, as long as I'm not hitting 9s and 10s every week.
Right.
Now, if I start hitting 9s and 10s every week, then it becomes a problem. It does the diminishing return. But an 8, 7s, and 8s, and 8.5, 9 is what I, maybe at the end of the block or when I can tell my body is about finished with a block or needs a deload, I'll go ahead and go a 9 or even a 10,
Yeah.
But like that time I squatted 900 in the garage for the first time, I could tell when I got to 800, I was like, I'm definitely plateauing and heading the other direction. So it's probably time to go ahead and see where I'm at. And, when I squatted 900, I was like, I knew I was at the end of the block on my squat. So, I can tell pretty quick.
And that makes sense too. Like I do something similar. If I know that this is the last week and we're about to go into a pivot, then you have a little bit more freedom. You're not trying to build your momentum for the next week at that point, and so you can afford to. So that's the 500 bench that I did last summer. Probably was on a week like that. it was just the last week of the block, things were going well, and, it's like, well, let's take a shot at it, That's a good time for stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was at on Minnesota. I could tell. That's kind of where I was headed on the bench too. I could tell the 580 was at about a 9, and but it felt better than it ever. I'd never paused it for sure. But the lockout felt really light. It was a little heavy off my chest, but I could tell it was getting close. I'm getting really close to 600. I think that's the next logical step, to try something along those lines,
Yeah.
But
well, hey, let's talk about your 900-pound gym squat that you did. It's been a little while ago now, but excuse me. So before we got going here, I put up some questions on my social media stuff about, asking people if they had anything that they wanted to ask you, and that came up quite a bit, actually. But so what's with you squatting barefoot in the garage? That seems to be like the most common question about your squats that I get is, hey, what's with, it's like, why does Dennis squat barefoot? How come he likes to squat in flats? And people were concerned about your shoe choices.
Well, so there's not a scientific reasoning, man. Honestly, the real reason is usually because if the weather's nice, I'm just definitely too lazy to put shoes on. It's easier just to walk out to the garage and start working out.
Yeah.
And so what I usually do. So really, the only time you see shoes on me is maybe the last squat before meet, just to kind of make sure I'm okay in shoes, or if it's cold outside. So
okay,
that's really the only times I wear shoes. As far as I used to wear heels for a little bit. Actually, before I started powerlifting, I was always training with no shoes on. And then when I started powerlifting, I kind of got it in my head that the heel shoe like somehow makes you better. And later I found out it really doesn't, So
yeah,
once I figured it out, I just kind of got away from it.
So for you, you're if you're squatting barefoot most of the time, then your choice for squatting in flat shoes in competition and whatnot, it's just because that's the closest thing to what you're used to and what you prefer, right?
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more comfortable. The reason why I don't squat in a heel shoe really anymore is because I tend to bounce forward when I start coming back up. It messes my balance up. It always did, even when I wore them. I had a fear of always bouncing forward because it happened once at a meet when I first started wearing them. I bounced forward, and so I stopped wearing them after that, Hang on just a second, Mike.
Sure.
But once I started just going flat soles, I think, oh, this is just as good, so I'll just do this. Yeah. And that's kind of where that went,
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, another question that came in that's kind of related to that. Do you ever get nervous training in your garage? Nervous, like either just at the weights that you're handling, or anything to do with the equipment that you're using, or anything like that? Because a lot of times you're training, at least it looks like you're training by yourself. Does any of that bother you mentally ever?
Yeah, I get nervous, but it's not any more than I would at a meet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's as far as the equipment, it's you know, not any more than I would at a meet. You know, if I see 900 on a bar or on the rack at a meet or 900 at home, it's both nerve-wracking to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not really by myself or at a meet. It's just, you know, because if you get hurt, you get hurt. There's nobody, you know, about the only thing a spotter's going to do is just basically rack the bar for you versus, you know, if I'm at home,
they're not going to catch you with 900 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at home. It would just simply hit the squat rack, you know.
Of course,
but,
yeah.
No, the only thing that's happened is smash my middle finger re-racking the weights because the pegs are so far, they stick so far out. Mm-hmm. And you can actually see it in the video. I don't know which one it was, but I hit it. I smashed my fingernail. My fingernail fell off, and then that was just on like a warm-up weight. It was something 500 or less. I bounced forward somehow. I don't know what the hell happened, but my fingernail hit between the bar and the C channel on the squat rack.
Yeah.
And then it happened again when I think it was either 880 or 900. I smashed the same fingernail the next week with all the weight on that on the peg. So I was nervous about that for a while as far as equipment wise.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you do that twice, and that'll make you slow down a little bit, right?
Yeah. So basically, what I had to do is just really try to get my hand position fixed and really pay attention to that, you know. But you know, I don't really worry about it as much now because I kind of got that figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the equipment, you know, I use, I'm not too worried about it. And my brother, people make fun of my brother and stuff for, you know, because he's skinny compared to me. But Jesse's people don't realize how strong he is, and he's more than capable of picking the weight off.
Yeah.
For helping me come up, you know, he's had to do it before, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And what's funny is they make fun of him, but if they ever had to wrestle him, that he'd mop the floor with 99% of power. Honestly, I'm not just saying that because he's my brother. He really is that. He'll take your ass down, man. He has made me land on the back of my head more than once. Yeah, it's kind of funny when people make fun of him. They don't really know who he is.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it's not a power. I mean, he doesn't really compete. He kind of dabbles around with it with me, you know. But
sure.
I'm trying to get him to do grappling because I think he would go at a really high level. But anyway, long story short, they make fun of him, but they don't really know who's in the.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a I don't know. People on the internet, you know, they like to comment on your spotters. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe there needs to be a study done or something about what makes people want to comment on your spotters when they're watching internet videos.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, you know. You know, the spotters in the IPF, like they had that one mishap with Kelly Branton in 2016, but the guys in Belarus, I think those guys were military guys. I mean, they're not 390-pound powerlifters. They're military guys, you know. They're more than capable. I think they were. Or at least some of them were. But it's just like, man, people, leave it alone. Yeah.
I mean,
powerlifters make them look small, maybe, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of them are just more than capable.
Yeah. Well, I would like to see something done about safety in the squat. I don't know what. I don't have any ideas or any sort of brilliant solutions because Like I remember back in the day when we didn't have the safeties in the bench, and with equipped benching, you know, I've been there when people have dropped weights on their neck or on their face or on their stomach, all manner of different things. I actually almost dropped it on my face before and had a very narrow miss. So I'm very grateful to have safeties in the bench. The thing is that they wouldn't work quite the same way with the squat. And I don't know what the the great solution would be, because you'd need something that could catch you safely in a variety of different circumstances and also not ruin the bar with, you know, just one person dumping the barbell, you know. So there's it's definitely a problem, but I would like to see something done about it. I don't know what, but if anybody has any great ideas, I think there's an opening there.
A mark there. Well, here's my opinion on it. Be brief on this. My opinion is this: on the squat, I think spotters are fine.
Yeah.
Having 3 spotters or 5 or whatever it is. I think if you make it too safe, it gets even more boring to watch. Because part of the draw. I mean, I hate to say this, and I don't want to sound like a meathead, but part of the draw in powerlifting for me is to watch somebody like Ray Williams. Because I mean, if he falls and tumbles with that weight, that's, you know, it's gonna hurt, and he might break something, but he's gonna live, you know. But at the same time, it's fun to watch because it could happen, you know. It's one of those things like watching tackle in football, and I think anything in powerlifting is a lot less dangerous than football or boxing or any of that stuff. It's a lot less. I mean, the worst you're going to do is really, to me, is sprain a muscle or tear a muscle or break a bone, you know.
Yeah. Which
sucks, but it's not life-changing. I mean, it's not, you're not screwing with your brain, you know. It won't kill you. Now, on the bench is different.
Yeah.
I definitely think you need to have those in place, because it can kill you. If the bar falls on you, it can kill you.
Yeah.
So that I definitely think needs to be made safe. And even if the spotters miss it, something needs to catch the weight, because if you don't, then somebody could die. Now the squat, I think the chance is a lot less. If you can't squat a weight, you know, then you've got people there to ease the bar off of you. Yeah. But I think that's part of the allure of powerlifting is the fact that it is dangerous, and I mean, there's dangerous aspects to it, and that's just kind of part of it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion.
Well, that's what we're here for.
It's not everybody's opinion, and it's probably not the right opinion. But you know, I think if you go making stuff too safe, especially the squat, because that's the biggest draw is the squat in powerlifting, I think. So making it somebody like Ray, where they walk out 1,080 pounds, and it looks dangerous, it feels dangerous, it's more exciting to watch, I think. So, hey.
They're not here.
Oh, they're not? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun here.
Oh, no, that sucked. Yeah. Hold on just a second, Mike. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's sorry, Mike. I came here to pick up my daughter, so.
Yeah, no stress. No stress.
You cut that part out.
Yeah, we will.
But where was I? So you know, the argument comes in for people to have monoliths and straps hanging down, and man, I think that just takes away from the pure aspect of the sport, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some concerns with that as well, right? Like there's, you know, people have their issues with monoliths, not least of which being they're giant, unwieldy, and expensive. You know, so I can understand why, you know, people don't want to go that way. and that's understandable, but it would be nice if there was some way to go. And again, I don't know what that would be, you know, if it would be like some sort of a, like Blaine uses these boxes that sit underneath the weight stack, you know, but then you've got the problem of obstructing the judge's view. And, you know, so there are definitely some potential ideas floating around. None of them are ready to go right now, but I mean, there's a bunch of different ways that you could do it, you know, but somebody's just got to figure it out and figure out how to put it together so that it solves all the problems at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's something I should work on a design for, but I've never been motivated to do it just because I like to see it's kind of like Olympic lifting when you see the bar going up overhead. That's dangerous as hell. You see people's arms folding backwards and stuff. But to me, that's part of the sport. Injury is inevitable, and nobody really. I don't think anybody's ever died from doing squats that I know of. And, so and they have from the bench. The bench has killed people before. Sure. But so that I definitely anything that can put somebody's life in danger, I think you definitely need. You got to start thinking about that. But if it never has. The squat. I mean, if somebody breaks both of their knees, like what happened to Brandon Lilly. Brandon Lilly fell and he broke his knees. He was going to break them anyway. But it happened before a monolift or nothing else would have solved any of his problems. So that's my take on it. Gotcha. And everybody wants to argue for the safety thing, and it's like, how safe can you make it? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's just like I say, it's just an opinion, and of course. The less clutter you have on the platform, and the more you can see the lifter, the more exciting it is to watch.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah.
You start having all this shit on the platform and these mechanisms to keep it in place and make sure nobody gets hurt. Then you're going to start. It's just going to be. I don't know. It's kind of like I'm the world's strongest man when you see guys lift up big stones overhead where they can potentially fall back on them. I mean, that's just, whether people want to admit it or not, it makes it more exciting to watch. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of why I think that way in the squat as well. Is I think it should be walked out, no safety apparatuses around except the spotters, and you can either squat it or you can't. I mean, that's just it. Yeah. So I don't know. Like when I failed at 865 at Raw Nationals, I didn't feel endangered at all. I mean, I could tell. All I had to do was hold it there until the spotters taped it off of me, and I knew it was going to happen immediately. As soon as I shook my head, nope. I knew that they would be right there to pick it up. So it's and that's a lot of weight. 865 is a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's no joke.
So, and I don't know who came up with the idea of putting the secondary racks on the bench racks on the squat rack when Ray did 1,080. But that was a damn good idea. That's all you need. Yeah. Like that's like a perfect.
Yeah, that was an intense moment.
Yeah, it was intense, but it was also a really good insight by whoever thought to put those on there. Yeah, that to me is really that's all you need.
Yeah. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit. You said something earlier when we were talking about equipped lifting that I kind of wanted to go back to. We were talking about equipped lifting, and you mentioned that the only place to really do it at a high level would be in the IPF, and that didn't seem very interesting to you. So,
no, I didn't say it doesn't seem interesting. The problem is just there's no real incentive to do it. There's no money in it, and you have to spend a lot of money. So that's where I kind of get hung up on. It's like, man, I can't keep doing this. It's the same reason why I'm not going to Classic World. It's just the interest is there. I would love. In fact, I was kind of wanting to go at super heavy. I was really thinking about moving up to super heavy and competing against the supers this year. I really wanted to do that, but it's just the money is, it's like
they're
you got to
expensive
pay
trips
for all this. Yeah, and it's like, man, this to me, this is getting to a point where there's other options that I can do that I can even make money at. So it's like, I don't know. That was what I meant by doing IPF Worlds, the geared. I'd like to do geared lifting. I would actually like to go against. There's some people I'd like to go against in the geared lifting world at super heavyweight, but it just the incentive to do it is just kind of not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The interest is, but the incentive is just kind of not there.
Yeah, I get it. That was a big concern for me. Earlier on in my career was, how can I continue to lift and compete and travel all around and stuff, and not be taking money, that otherwise would go to my family and stuff like that. That's a big concern, and it's a lot of money for people to spend on the sport. So, I totally get you. It makes more sense, and in my opinion, it makes more sense for a guy like you and Bryce and a bunch of guys coaching, because it kind of goes along with your career, whereas it doesn't mind. It doesn't mind at all. Sure. Nowadays it does. Nowadays it does go along with my career, but I'm kind of thinking back to those earlier days when. But no, you're absolutely right, and that's definitely a perk for being where I'm at currently in my life. But I totally understand why that would be difficult. So, as far as what's coming up for you competitively, what are your plans then?
So, right now I'm looking at the U.S. Open, and then after that I'm doing. That's in May, and then after that I'm doing IPF, which is the meet Matt Sommer's putting on. I'm doing that in July, and then I'm thinking about doing one in August. It's it's another meet through the USPA and IPL. It's a tribute meet. That's a big money meet. It should be like the second biggest money meet in powerlifting. And so I believe I'm doing that. And then I have an invite to go to Big Dogs in Australia. So I'm probably going to try to do that if the chips line up right. If I don't do that, then I'm probably going to do Raw Nationals again. So, and that may be the last meet of the year unless I do something in December here locally. I may very well do. It's quite a few. So it depends on. That's why I want to heat up and make sure I'm good.
Sure.
Before I start competing again, but so that's kind of the definitive plan right now. I'd like to do Raw Nationals again and compete against Ray again for the Wilkes, but I don't know that I will, because if I go down to Big Dogs, that's another meet I could win money at,
Yeah.
But so I'm trying to. This year I'm just looking at money meets. I'm just looking for those, and if I had a chance to win money, then that's kind of what I want to do. That's why I want to do the Arnold, because you win money at that meet. But that whole story. But
well, and that was just as a result of doing the USPA Fit Expo, correct? Yeah.
So there's some kind of USAPL rule that says if you do one money meet, you can't do their money meet. So that's fine, whatever. I wasn't gonna pull out of it for one meet.
Right. I understand. Yeah.
But I mean, you know, I got into a conversation with somebody. You know, I in general, fundamentally, I don't like the fact that all the money meets are on the non-tested powerlifting side. You know, I hate that. I hate competing against guys on steroids. I honestly do. But there's no other choice really, unless, you know, without having a big sponsor or somebody paying for every meet in the USPA and one of the worlds. And, you know, so that's kind of where I'm at now. It's just, like, I might as well try to, you know, if I place fifth and up, I'm at least breaking even, you know.
Yeah.
You know, last couple of years I spent way too much money powerlifting. So that's kind of why I'm switching federations and doing some of these other meets.
Yeah, to just try to recoup some of that stuff. That makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at this point where now I'm like, I can't afford to do this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we're not doing it locally.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to do that all the time.
Sure.
But,
well, you've been really generous with your time, but I've got one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. Probably the second most asked question that I got was, how has your training evolved since, you know, let's say from like your earlier powerlifting career to what you've been doing? I don't even want to say lately, because the training that you've been doing lately has been different, but kind of like what's been different from when you were, you know, earlier on in your development as a competitive powerlifter to when you got to the elite levels?
Definitely changes in volume work. A lot of that's changed. I've added a lot more, especially in the last 6 months or so. But so when I first started training, you know, just the different variations in, well, for one thing, accessories. I've added a lot more accessories in the last year or so than in previous years. So, you know, adding that stuff in has made a difference. And just the volume in general. There was a time where I only squatted once a week and benched once a week. And I might have deadlifted twice maybe, but for the most part it was, I think it's just the volume and just the general accessories that I did. So
earlier on you were training less frequently, and then, you know, gradually over time it's gotten to be more and more frequent and
yes,
more volume and like a greater variety of training.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that's changed.
Is that something that, how do I want to phrase this? Would you advise other people to kind of go in that direction, kind of follow the template that you followed, or would you say that you learned from it and you would do things differently now, or how would you approach that?
When you talking about the template when I first started?
Yeah. Like, say someone else is kind of more in the earlier stages of their career, you know, somewhere between beginner and intermediate, and, you know, they're, you know, developing as a lifter, and they're kind of looking, you know, maybe listening to this and thinking, oh, well, so when Dennis was at my level, this is what he did. You know, would you say that, you know, that, are you pretty happy with the way that you executed your training earlier on, or would you say that if you were to do it again, you would do things differently?
You know, honestly, I don't know. I don't know that I would do anything differently. And the reason why I say that is because I found a lot of stuff that doesn't work, and I found a lot of stuff that did work.
Right.
So through trial and error. So trying things on my own is really kind of what got me to the point to make good judgment calls on what I do now, you know.
Yeah.
Knowing, you know, sometimes I think, well, if I had gotten a coach earlier on, maybe I would have learned this a lot faster. And that may be true, but I never did do that, so I don't really know. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard, I think, to take a guy like you and second guess really anything about the development. You know, like I don't know. I think it's easy for people to sit back and you know, to say, well, you know, this would have in theory been better, or that would work better for so and so. You see this happen with a lot of lifters at the top levels, you know, that people want to, you know, kind of armchair quarterback their training, especially for like the top guys, the guys that are really dominant, or the top women that are really dominant probably have it even worse. But I that always struck me as kind of an arrogant position to take, you know. It's like, you know, this person's the best in the world, you know, in some cases the best that there's ever been. And we're going to sit here and say, you know, if they'd only listened to me, then how much better could they have been? Like, well, you know.
Yeah, and dude, I've had that. Yeah, and I've had that happen, and that's fine. That's okay. Sometimes, you know, I understand that. What 2 or 3, 4 years ago, after I hit a few meets, I kind of got like that. I was like, you know, I could probably help them if I did this, and this, and then. But the further I got along with my trainer, the more I realized, like, I don't really know shit. You know, I mean, I know a lot about myself, but to know anything about another person is really hard, dude. Like, that's difficult.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing to be a coach than it is to be a lifter. So I know a ton of shit about myself and my own training and but to take that and put it on somebody else, you know, I really don't know that much. I mean, I you know, and it's not to say that I couldn't learn and couldn't do it, but it's, you know, coaching is, to be a good coach, it's not an easy thing, you know. And a lot of people can profess to do it, but it's, I would never do that. Especially the more experience I get, the more I realize it's not easy, you know.
Right.
And listening to the athlete is probably the biggest asset to set somebody apart from somebody who doesn't. I mean, as far as being a coach, the worst thing you could do is not listen to an athlete.
Oh,
you know?
100%, 1,000% agree.
Yeah.
You know, like at a minimum. At the minimum, what you do is you erode the trust of the relationship for sure. You know, and not to say that you've got to just like shut up and do everything that you're asked, you know, but it's at a minimum got to be a dialogue, you know. Like I just don't, I don't know. I mean, I suppose different situations are different, but for 90% of powerlifters, you know, they have a choice, you know, they have, you know, it's just not a situation that's going to go well if you know, get overly heavy-handed about things, you know. And probably more common is just for things to not be communicated well at all. Like, you know, people miss weights and the weights are heavier next week in the program, and you start going, well, is this person even paying attention? Like, stuff like that. I mean, it takes like 2 seconds and that coaching relationship is trashed. And once that's trashed, you know, it's ineffective anyway. It's dead in the water, you know. So Anyway, so I'm kind of taking us off into a tangent about coaching philosophy.
No. That's what I mean. That's kind of what I mean. It really is. You know.
Sure.
And I have very, very limited coaching, being coached. I mean, so I mean, you know, basically I was at a point where I'm bored with myself, coaching myself. So now I want to try to get what I wanted was some outside influence, and not necessarily be, hey, do this program, you're going to do completely. You know, that's when I talk to you. I didn't want that. I wasn't at that point in my powerlifting career. I wanted somebody to, okay, here's what I do. Let's start here. Let's start making changes. So that's what I wanted. And that, to me, it just worked out fantastic so far. You know, I mean, it's I couldn't be more pleased. I mean, that's what makes, you know, to me, that's what makes a coach is somebody who can do that. Take what has made somebody successful and essentially make it better, you know, or look at it with a different set of eyes. You know?
Right. Well, and that's pretty much exactly what we did when you and I first started working together. It's like, look, this is Dennis. You know, he's already winning worlds by 100 pounds. You know, like he's probably one of the most dominant male lifters that's in the IPF right now. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, you know, like start with what you know. And in your case, it's like, well, we started with a program that was very similar to what you had already been doing, you know, and we were just kind of gradually making small tweaks to it and learning stuff along the way, you know, and I would say that process isn't just because it's you, it's that, you know, you're working with somebody that already has a good idea of what works, you know. Now, if you're working with somebody who hasn't set a PR in 2 years or something like that, it's going to be a little bit of a different process. But, you know, there has to be that sort of consideration for what does the athlete know and what's the athlete responding to. I mean, it's funny because, like, as we're talking about it, I hope that it sounds obvious, and it certainly seems obvious to me, but it's not a thing that I think is all that commonly done. You know, I think a lot of times you end up, and not to go on the grumpy old man coaches these days kind of rant here or anything, because it's not like that at all. But I do think that for a lot of people, they have their systems and they have their methods and their way of doing things, and the expectation is for athletes to conform to that. But, you know, especially with high level people, you know, that's not going to cut it.
No, I mean, and maybe that's good for some high level people. I don't know. I mean, but for me, I was scared to change anything right up front, and I was like, okay, let's just start gradually. Let's add this, and you know, when I squatted that 900 pounds or whatever, and people were like, or 880 and then 900. You know, I know people hit you up about, wow, what did you do to get him? You know, and then you told me, you're like, that wasn't me, that was you. I mean, the thing of it is, it kind of was though, because there was a contribution there. I mean, it might not have been 100%, but it was enough of an enhancement to my training to where my strength gain had gone up enough to where I could attempt this now, and you know, now I'm ready to. Yeah. You know, I was ready for it when you know.
I think that's probably a very even-handed way of looking at it as a mutual contribution. But I mean, you're right. I was just talking with somebody about that this weekend, and said the same thing. That's like, you know, Dennis made me look like a genius, but that really wasn't anything that I did. You know, that was that was the first training block. That was just like, hey, let's take what we already know works from what you've been doing in the past, and translate it more or less into RTS language and then see what happens. And so, I mean, the tweaks that we made were like less week-to-week variation and, some RPE stuff. I mean, although you were already kind of incorporating RPE, just kind of weren't using the same language that I have been accustomed to. So, like, the changes were really modest, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but they were enough there. I mean, the introduction of the singles helped. That allowed me to gauge better each week, and it actually got me more excited to train. Because then I was like, okay, this felt light this week. I'm going to go do this the next week, and so there was enough change there to say, okay, this is interesting again. Training is fun again. So when training's not fun, you don't progress. I don't think. I
agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, some people just make you go through a grueling ass workout that's not fun, and you'll never. To me, I think that's the worst thing you can do. For me personally, and some training is going to be grueling, but it's got to be fun too.
Yeah, that there needs to be. It can't be that for long periods of time. I think, like, when it gets to the point where you're just like, why am I even here? Then you're missing something. You've got to find a different way, I think. Yeah, I agree with you.
And it was enough change to where, okay, I've got a new direction to go, and that's kind of where I went with it. And I haven't even hit a peak meet yet. I mean, I still think I've got a 2,300-pound raw sleeves in me. If I just hit it at hit all my numbers at the right time, fix my deadlift. But I mean, I would have PR'd again at this meet had I taken my bench. I PR'd every lift except the deadlift at this last meet from the meet before that, a month before that. So, I mean, training has definitely improved from what I was doing for myself. So there's definitely a contribution there. Huge contribution as of late. I mean, it's gone exactly like I had envisioned it before I got with you, basically.
Sure. And we've definitely changed more as the blocks have progressed and whatnot, and we're trying to learn about your individual response and whatnot. But
I mean, and so basically it went from let's put me in the pilot seat to gradually RTS taking over the controls, and that's kind of what I envisioned, and it's worked out pretty well.
Well, man, I hate to cut us short here, but I mean, I have a ton more questions that I could ask you. So I think probably the best answer is to set up another call with you and have you back on. But I really enjoyed chatting with you. I enjoy your perspectives and whatnot. Is there anything that you want to say or mention before we go? How people can get in touch with you and ask all those questions that they've got that I didn't get to?
I guess, man, probably the easiest way to get a hold of me would be, I don't know, I guess Facebook Messenger. That'd probably be the easiest way.
There you go.
I could give my email out, but then I'd have a bunch of emails that go to nowhere. I don't check yours often, so.
Well, Facebook Messenger should be pretty straightforward for people to figure out, but.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
all right.
I can.
All right, man.
Tell pretty quick.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need to do this again. I think, like I said, I've got plenty more questions. So, thanks for hanging out. Thanks everybody for listening.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you next time.
Reactive Training Systems.